All right, here we are. Short story long. We are back with a brand new episode. Jeron Smith, the CMO of. Tell me again. The CM. Just give it to me.
CMO, Stephen Curry, 30 Enterprises.
It's so professional.
Indeed.
I like it.
Absolutely. I like it too.
You want to know what I love about you? I don't really know you very well,
Indeed.
but what I like is like you're a cool guy, and like you don't seem extra corpo, but like damn it, your job is professional and like real. It's a real job,
Indeed.
and it's like the exact place, the intersection where sort of corporate and cool meet is what I would say,
I like that description.
right?
Yes. Yes. Indeed.
So, I think I want to start with, tell me what that entails.
The job.
That job.
Yeah, the job is robust, right?
Yeah.
I think it's the perfect culmination of all my experiences, and I'm sure we'll talk about Nike, we'll talk about the White House.
Yeah.
But it's pretty unique, right? At the end of the day, I think, athletes, they're a brand in their own right, and I think really, really getting granular and really getting strategic around an athlete's brand is really where my job really sits, right?
Yeah.
From messaging to working with, his partners to really get everybody on the same page. I think traditionally brands have sometimes looked at athletes as more just endorsers,
Yeah.
but they're brands in their own right. And when you work with an athlete, it should be looked at as a brand collaboration,
Yeah.
just opposed to this person's endorsing my product. I always think about how Louis Vuitton and Supreme came together,
Yeah.
right? That collaboration had to account for both of those brands, each of their individual brand strategies, as opposed to, hey, Supreme, you're going to come and do what we want you to do, or Louis Vuitton,
Yeah.
you're going to come and do what we want you to do, or whatever the case might be. So one thing I always try to do is make sure each partner understands Steph, who he is,
Yeah.
and really understand his brand so that it becomes a more fruitful collaboration as opposed to, hey, here's Steph and here's the star power.
Yeah.
Can you talk about our product?
And it's changed. It's like so much different now. I feel like even than like, I'm going to be extreme and say even than 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Right? I think 5 is a little safer, but like meaning where, right? Because when I do our stuff for Young and Reckless, I always talk about how, because I'm constantly trying to figure out how to market it better and how to be more effective and more engaging. And it's like, I always talk about how you used to kind of just be able to take a, celebrity, artist, athlete, whatever, and you could put them in your clothes.
Right.
You could put it all over billboards,
Right.
and you could say, this person wears our clothes every day.
And it's all good.
And everyone's like, all right, that person wears their clothes every day. They don't even think about the fact that you just gave them $1 million.
Indeed.
Whereas now they see what Steph does every day.
Yeah.
They see what all these people do every day.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't actually fit what they're doing, then they know that wasn't real and they know it was paid for.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
And then you get nothing.
I feel like in today's age, you're marketing to an incredibly sophisticated consumer, right?
Yeah.
Like if you look at how, your average 16 to 18-year-old cycles through content, it's extremely quick. You know very quickly whether this is interesting or not to you, right? You're just cycling through it, right?
And you might not even know.
You're
you
training,
go past it before you even know what the hell it was.
You're training your brain.
Yeah.
And just from my time at Nike, storytelling became so important, right? And that's why really digging into Steph's brand and who he is important for his partner. So you could tell authentic stories, right? You can sell a black and red Jordan 12, right? And you're saying, hey, everybody come buy this black and red Jordan 12.
Yeah.
Or you can say, hey, everybody come buy this flu game, right? Mm-hmm. The flu game means a lot more to the consumer than just a black and red Jordan 12, right?
Yeah.
Storytelling is so important, and I think that's a big part of what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, and I think now more than ever too, with everything being so disposable, it's like if you don't, to me, it's I do this a lot, but it's comparable to like working out.
Yeah.
Right. In the sense of, if you work out once a month, you can work your fucking ass off once a month. You're not going to see one change.
Right.
You have to work out every single day or whatever it is,
Yeah.
repetitively work the same things. What I'm saying is, with content being so disposable, if you only hit what your brand is once a month, nobody gives a shit. It's gone. You don't even know it happened. You have to, every project you do, every post you do, every partnership you do has to be on brand for anyone to even understand what your brand means.
Indeed.
It's crazy. So that's cool, man. That's why I really I'm just really intrigued by what you do, because you're just on the front lines of this crazy chaotic world that's like changing
It's
so quick.
evolving. It's evolving rapidly for
Madness.
sure.
What would you say? What is Steph's brand?
Yeah, that's a great question. One, I think it's evolving, right?
Yep.
But you know, I think you're looking at someone that's extremely personable, right? I mean, and I think one thing we're looking to do is really bring his personality out more and more. I think you see how important family is to him, and how seriously he takes his responsibility as a husband and a father.
Yep.
I think Steph is someone that makes everybody around him better people, right? It's been amazing for me coming into this job and working with him, because you realize how lucky you are to work with such an incredibly great individual. And I think even when you start to get into the business of sports and the business that's around Steph, and start to work with his partners, it's something that's infectious, in that everybody that's around him starts to feel and experience, and those are things you want to just bring to a more, a broader audience. You want everybody to experience that.
Yeah, that's incredible. I love all the little videos. I would say of all things, Steph, the biggest thing that sticks in my mind, other than being able to shoot half court shots every time, is the stuff with him and his wife. The little videos and them doing skits, and I don't know. I just feel like he does a really good job at showing the relatable side and the good. You know what I mean? It's just a good example.
No, absolutely. I mean, I think at the end of the day, he has, really millions, billions of people watching him, every day, and he's a good person to watch. You know what I mean?
And he's a good person.
Yeah, no, he absolutely is. I mean? And
you really got to be a good person to come off that.
No, for sure. And he's multifaceted. He's an emerging figure in the tech space, and he's an avid golfer, and there's just so many deep stories to tell around him that I'm just looking forward to.
That's good.
To people experiencing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so back to you.
Yeah, absolutely.
How old are you?
31 years old.
Wow.
Yeah, be 32 in August.
And for all the shit you've done, man, you've just been moving.
It's been chaotic, though.
You haven't taken a year off yet, have you?
Yeah, no, I haven't. It's chaotic, and I move a lot.
Yeah.
Lived in so many different places, and it wears on you, but it's the price you pay.
Yeah. And it's all worth it, man. I will
Absolutely.
say, the pain of being exhausted is a fraction of what the pain of doing nothing is.
Totally agree.
You know what I'm saying? And the pain of doubting and I don't know. Okay, where are you from?
I'm from Chino Hills, California.
What's childhood like in Chino Hills, California?
You know what? So Chino Hills is a suburb of Los Angeles.
Yep.
And I always say, Chino Hills is interesting, right? Because it's a good place to grow up, and it kind of sits at this intersection between, because Diamond Bar is right next to Chino Hills, and Diamond Bar is LA County.
Yeah.
Chino Hills sits in San Bernardino County, also affectionately referenced as the Inland Empire.
Yeah.
And then it also borders Anaheim, which is Orange County,
Yeah.
right? So you kind of sit at this really interesting intersection, and really good schools, and really good place to grow up. But my issue with Chino Hills is I always felt like you're always a step removed from everything, right? And Chino Hills felt very average to me.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't the greatest area, it wasn't the worst area, it wasn't it's not like you saw really amazing people on the daily basis, like if you grew up in LA or whatever the case might be. But because I grew up there, I knew, one, I didn't want to be average, and it really birthed the hunger in me, right? Because Hollywood was just right there. The
right
bright
over
lights
the hill.
were just we're right there, So it's a pretty cool place to grow up, and obviously the Ball brothers have made it a little bit more famous.
Oh, they're from Chino?
They're from Chino Hills.
I didn't realize
Absolutely.
that.
They're from Chino Hills.
You're gonna hear about that nonstop.
I'm still gonna say I'm the original.
Yeah.
I'm an original Chino
100%.
Chino Hillser.
Yes.
If I just made that up right now. But yeah. So.
And what type of shit were you into sports super early?
No, absolutely. I was definitely into sports. I was a martial artist growing up.
Wow. Like like black belt?
I wasn't a black belt, but I am an international karate champion for 13 and under. So I still have my trophy if you want to come to the house and
Just
see
in case
it.
you want to get karate kicked.
Yeah, indeed. But no, I was always big on hoops for sure.
Yep.
I was just really, really short growing up. So going into my junior year, I was about 5'3", right? In that summer, right? I'm 6'4" now. Really 6'3" and 3/4, but we're close. Late bloomer. So grew like 12 and a half inches in like a year and a half.
What, in like senior year?
Yeah, so from going into my junior year to my senior year. So I went to a school called Ayala High School to my sophomore year, and then I transferred to a school called Diamond Bar in my junior and senior year. And literally people that went to school with me at Ayala saw me later and didn't even know who I was, right? I'm like literally a foot taller.
Yeah.
I come from a pretty tall family, but I had really bad asthma growing up.
Yep.
So I don't know if it was asthma, but I don't know what really did it, but like I was just really short,
Yeah.
And
how weird.
Yeah, and although that was high school, it really informed the rest of my life, right?
Yeah.
Like it really.
In what way? Like, did it give you like you almost had like Napoleon complex, and then you grew, like dream come true? Or?
Yeah, kind of. I always say when you're short, you're invisible, right? Like when you're that short, you're invisible, and in order to make a statement, in order to have a presence.
Yep.
It's going to take more than your physical appearance. You know what I mean? So, whether that's coming up with creative ways, whether that's humor, whether that's whatever it is, I did really well in school, and I think that was a part of it, right?
Yeah.
Like how can I put
you gotta shine
my mark on something? Yeah, exactly. So, it definitely set the template for everything else.
So that, it probably also just added to that hunger.
Yeah,
that
no,
Chino
absolutely.
Hills, man.
Yeah.
You want to make a successful kid, put a 5'3" or a 5'3" hungry kid in Chino Hills. Did you have brothers and sisters?
I did. We're all 2 years apart, so I have an older sister, and I have a younger brother.
Got it.
Yeah. So,
what about was there any trouble in Chino? Did you have any bad dark years, anything like that, or not really?
Bad dark years. It was I wouldn't call them bad dark years. It was always interesting, right? Yeah. When I was kind of coming up in Chino Hills, it was interesting, right? It was a really diverse area. So I don't think anything peculiar, right? Anything that
just normal
the average kid wouldn't have to deal with, but you definitely had your issues.
You get
sure.
tested.
Yeah, you definitely had your issues for sure.
So then high school, so you're playing basketball. So was that like a dream come true when you all of a sudden just grow a foot? Like, did you feel like maybe your basketball dreams could play out? Or like, how did that go mentally?
I felt like I was good when I was 5'3" too,
Yeah.
But
that's a dream come true. You give a 5'3".
Yeah, you go to your local LA Fitness, 24-hour fitness, everybody's going to say, hey, man, if you give me another foot, I'm in the league, right?
Yeah.
Problem is that actually happened to me. I didn't go to the league.
Yeah.
And but I used to pray every day, man. I used to pray every day. I wanted to be tall so bad.
Yeah.
And you finally grow, and I already had the skill set, I feel like.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, the height helps.
Yeah.
And then you go from someone who kind of just shoots deep threes all the time to kind of dunking on people, and you're like, oh shoot, like what just happened? So
that's incredible. So then you went to college. Did you go to college with the intention to play basketball, or let me ask you this: did you go to college sort of leading with basketball or leading with?
It's a great question, man. So I grew very late.
Mm-hmm.
There's a few schools recruiting me. Probably the one that was recruiting me the most and the hardest was the Naval Academy, right? So took a visit. They're talking to me about David Robinson, and they're telling me he went from like 6'6" to 7'1". I'm like, am I gonna get a second growth spurt? And but I always say the Naval Academy set me up, right? So my dad goes to the visit with me, and it's a recruiting trip, right? So they're hyping you, right? So they're like, at the end of your freshman year, you get to take a cruise. And I was like, oh, cruise, it's crazy. So I'm like hanging out with the team after the game. I'm like, man, I'm just like, what's up with this cruise? They're like, cruise? Like, you're on a battleship, like mopping floors, right? I'm like, oh, that's crazy.
That's how they get you.
Yeah. So,
End up in Afghanistan. Like,
it's Chris, and then you have the commitment, the military commitment afterwards. So there was just a few things where I was like, I don't know if this is right for me.
Yeah.
So I think the issue was, you grow 12 inches, and all of a sudden I think I'm a first round, lottery pick, right? Like people just don't know it yet, right? So, but I had really good grades. So, I applied to schools like I was a regular student, and I chose to go to UCLA.
Yep.
So I went to UCLA, planning with my intention was to walk on, and it was looking promising. But the coach got fired the year I got there, and a new coach came in, and I don't think I learned, how to finesse the situation quite properly, right? I had a meeting with the new coach, and he's like, "What are you trying to do?" I was like, "Trying to, first step is getting on the team, then, trying to go to the league. Like, what are we talking about?" He's like, "Let me tell you about walk-ons in my program." He had to give me a little reality check. But one of the schools that recruited me heavily out of high school was University of Pennsylvania. It's an Ivy League school in Philadelphia. Problem with Ivy Leagues, they don't really get traditional full athletic scholarships. But the coach from UPenn, the assistant coach, the head assistant at the time, calls me and says, "Hey, I noticed you're not playing. Are you still interested in coming here?" I was like, "Absolutely." So I go out to Philly. We talk. We had a good conversation. I come back. He calls me, says, "Hey, I'm getting looked at for some head coaching jobs. I would love for you to come with me and start my program." I'm like, well, who's looking at you? He goes, Dartmouth and Columbia University. I'm like, Columbia, New York? I'm like, hey, that could work. I had an interest in marketing. I'm like, that'd be awesome. He calls me a few weeks later, and he goes, hey, I didn't get the job at Columbia, but I ended up getting a different job, and I still want you to come with me. I'm like, oh, where we at? I'm starting. I'm like, where we at? UNC, right? North Carolina, But he goes, Howard University. I was like, hey, coach, best of luck. I'm like, hey,
we'll see you.
Hey, wish you the best. They were 5 and 23. The previous season. And I was like, yeah, that's not gonna work. But the crazy thing is, I used to work the dorms at UCLA to stay on campus and work out, right? Run the Drake steps and get in the gym, put up shots, whatever I needed to do. So you would work the front desk, and they would pay your meal plan and your like room and board.
Got it.
So I'm working like the worst shift, the 3 a.m. to 6 a.m. shift with a friend of mine named Marvin. And I'm like, yeah, man, Howard offered me this full athletic scholarship, man, but I'm stay here and figure it out, man. I'm just it's gonna happen. Mind you, I'm a sophomore at this point. I've been at UCLA 2 years. Still not playing, right? He goes, hey, Jeron, it's 3 a.m., man. I guarantee you the coach is not thinking about you. Like, you're about to turn down a full athletic scholarship to keep running Drake steps, putting up shots, like hoping, like, he sees the light. And he's like, you're crazy. Call the coach, tell him I'll come. And I'm on a plane 2 weeks later. I had never seen the campus. Literally, this just sounds so bad, but literally, I get there, and I can't wait to see where we play, right? So they're showing me the facilities. They show me like where we play. I'm thinking it's the practice gym. I'm like, okay. I'm like, this is cool. Like,
this is great.
I'm like, so where we play? Like right here. I'm like, oh man. Go to the dorms. It's gonna sound crazy, but I go to the dorms and I was a late ad, so they roomed me with a football player. I'm sitting in the dorm, and I'm like, there was no toilet paper. I'm like, when did they bring in the toilet papers? And when did they because UCLA, they clean your room, like they take care of everything. I'm sitting there, they start like dying laughing, and I was like, so it was a shift, to say the least. It was a shift, but I credit Howard University with transitioning me from childhood to manhood for sure, because you have to become an adult and figure it out. Absolutely. So
that's huge, man. And I wonder what would have happened. Like, I mean, you seem like the type of guy that would have figured the shit out regardless, but like, had you stayed just with the dream of one day getting on, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I just wonder like how that would have affected, like, it just seems like it kind of puts stuff in your control a little bit.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, UCLA was interesting, and even you end up playing like UCLA has. They're bringing in McDonald's All-Americans every year. And I think a lot of making it in the hoop game is, it's talent, it's opportunity, it's preparation, and a little bit of luck as well. And I don't know what would have happened if I would have stayed and it would have worked out or not worked out, but UCLA is a really big school, right? I was an econ major. I didn't know my counselor. I didn't know what was going on. I used to find out what classes to take by talking to my fellow econ friends. I'm like, hey, what class? Okay, cool. Like, I guess that's what I need, right? It was tough. It was like a really, I think it's a tougher school to navigate. I think going to Howard is crazy. I always tell this story. I realized I wanted to be a business major, and Howard had a school of business. And so I entered the school of business, and I thought all you had to really do to kind of make it was, go to college, get good grades, come out, get a job, make some money, right? Yep. And I remember, being in the school of business, and I remember just seeing people, pew, 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 just zooming around the business school all the time. I'm like, what is going on? Like, I tried to ignore it for a while. Yeah. But I'm like, I think I might be missing something, right? And I stop a girl and I said, hey, like, where are you going? She goes, I'm going to the CEO speaker series. And I was like, where is that at? They're like, first you got to have your suit. And that's part of like Howard University School of Business. Like, there's certain days you have to have a suit, and for any event you have to have your suit. It's part of going to school there. So I run to my dorm, get my suit. I'm like, let me go check this out. Go in the auditorium. It's like filled to capacity. And it was the CEO from Credit Suisse. He was like the youngest CEO on Wall Street. And everybody's in there. And everybody's all super prepared. It's question time. They're asking questions about some merger acquisition from that morning. The CEO's all impressed. And I'm like, I'm like, oh, I was missing something. Yeah. Like, I was really missing something.
Level here.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll always credit that experience with turning me on to like what it really takes, like the preparation it takes, the same preparation you put into athletics, it takes to really try to make it and get it done.
Yeah. Was that like were those speaker events like optional? Is that how it works?
Yeah, it was optional. There are certain things that were mandatory. So, you had your, they put you all, everybody in a corporate group, right? And, I got there late. So most people, they had the Morgan Stanleys and they had the Goldman Sachs and they're required to give one person in that group an internship. And there's like, if I remember correctly, like 5 or 6 people in the group. Yeah. I was late. So we had dominoes, right? Yeah. So I was like, okay, whatever. Wasn't really paying attention. Once again, I'm like, thinking either I'm going to continue to play basketball or get out and get a job or whatever, right? And I'll never forget, there was a girl, she swam at Howard, and she said, hey, like, Nike has these internships. Like, you should apply. Once again, still a little too cocky, right? I'm like, oh, I'm an athlete, I got great grades, like, done. Why wouldn't they give me an internship, right? Didn't really prepare. I get the interview, fail, right? Like, I think I get to the second round, they don't offer me a job. She gets it, right?
Oh, wow.
So I'm on her Facebook that summer. Like, I stay on campus, I'm working out, but I'm like on Facebook, and she's like got all the cool shoes. She's got all the exclusive Air Force Ones. Yep. Nike's campus has a lake. It's looking all beautiful. I'm like, oh man, that's amazing. I'm like, and then everybody else was coming back from their Wall Street, internships, and they made all this money. I'm like, I messed up again. Yeah. So I actually approached this girl, and I'm like, just with the humble juice, like, hey, like, help me.
Yeah. What do you think you did wrong? You think you were just too cocky a little bit?
Too cocky. I thought all you needed to make it, like, and I always say, you go to your barbershops growing up, they're like, yeah, you go to a good school, you get good grades, you can make it in this world. And I believed it, I believed it. So all this time I have in my head like, hey, take care of your schoolwork. Yeah. Do what you need to do, and then you're playing basketball. You're good. Yeah. But I wasn't good. You know what I mean? Like, that's huge. I feel like there's no formula to success. If there was a formula to success, everybody would do it. Like, it takes that grit, it takes that something different on the inside to really figure it out. And so she helped me. She helped me. Got my resume right. She really helped prep me. I will be forever grateful. She still works at Nike to this day. It's crazy. And she really prepped me for. To get this internship, and it came around again the next year, and I was like, I'm ready, right? I get the internship, and I will always say that internship completely changed my life. I
I interned. It was a brand marketing internship in Chicago, and I think long story short, I couldn't believe I was being paid to do what I was doing. I was like, this is like I can't believe jobs existed like this, right? There's things I would have loved to do anyway. You know, you're working with Chicago Bulls, you're working with Chicago Sky, you're helping inform and create brand strategies, shoe launches. You know, working with some of the best athletes in the world. You know, you identify with the consumer demographic, so when the executives are creating brand strategy, you can really come with an informed point of view, right? I was like, man, this is amazing, and you're getting paid, right?
So you think that really opened your eyes to like what is even possible?
Absolutely.
Because let me ask you this: one thing is, at what point do you think, or did it sort of just happen naturally? Like your transition happened from sort of all eyes on basketball to like, oh, I'm gonna have a market. I'm gonna go in this direction, business or marketing.
Yeah, I would say so. Kind of coming up when I was short, I wanted to be an architect, right? And I was in engineering academy. We had this this organization called Skills Vicar USA. You go and do drafting competitions. It's the stuff I used to hide from my athlete friends, And I remember the day I realized, well, there's two things. One, we were going to a drafting competition. We were on the bus, and one of my Skills Vicar teammates, he put the jack of spades. He's like, put it on my forehead. He was like, you got jacked. And I was like, this is not for me, I don't know if this is for me. I don't understand the humor. So that happens, and then, at the time, they would really prep you for this career in architecture, and they talked about this apprenticeship. After you finish getting your degree in architecture, you got to do an apprenticeship. And I was like, me being ill-informed, I was like, apprenticeship, I'm not trying to wait 3-4 years to start making money. Architecture, so I was like, I need another career. But at the end of the day, it might not be called an apprenticeship, but any career, you're gonna have an apprenticeship.
No matter what.
Whether you're interning, whether you're running around working for free, whatever you're doing. I didn't know that at the time, but I would say definitely, So I'm thinking like, what other career paths might work for me? You know what I mean? And I'm kind of thinking about, obviously high earning potential jobs. So is that a job on Wall Street? Is it this? Is it that? I think when I started interning at Nike and realized you really could make money doing something you love, I think that was the first time I started thinking, like really seriously thinking beyond basketball. And I'd be remiss if I didn't tell the story. And I'm still made fun of to this day for this, but I'm like finishing my internship that summer. So, and this is basically a testament to show you that I still didn't really get it. Finished my internship that summer, and one of the guys that was working in the office, one of the more senior guys, sits me down and he's like, hey, I'd love to help you continue your career, whether you want to come back and work in this office or, there are some opportunities in DC where I was going to be finishing school. Love to help you with this journey, like let me know what you want to do. Basically trying to help me find, get a job upon graduation. I'm like, hey man, I really appreciate that. But I think I'm going to the NBA. What is wrong with me?
So you just kind of said like, no thanks.
Basically, like I'm thinking in my head, like, hey, shoe deal, let's talk about it, like, crazy.
I love it.
Yeah, so stupid. They like still make.
All your friends make money. Oh, because was it the same?
There are other interns, that are like that's still working at Nike. And when I finally, it probably took me like 2.5 years from that time to actually finally get in the company. But they're like, that's why it should have took you that long. Like that was a very.
Because did you go tell everyone that, or how did everyone find it? You told everyone?
No, the guy. He told. Yeah, he told. I probably told a few people, but it kind of started to get around.
That's incredible.
Kind of a funny story.
What? Here's a question. I don't know. I mean, tell me your opinion on it. Like, let's say a 16-year-old came up to you today and was like, "Yo, man, huge fan of everything you've done. You're my idol." Right? He's in between being able to go to UCLA and maybe get lost in the shuffle, or go to a Howard and shine. What would you tell him to do?
We talking athletics? We talking career?
I'm talking more. Let's say more academic.
Yeah.
You know, it's just what I'm really trying to get at is like, do you try to be? No matter if it's academics or athletics or anything, like, do you go to the big school and take the shot, or do you?
Yeah, I mean, I think what I alluded to earlier was, me really feeling like there's no formula, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think, you've seen, you're around a ton of successful people, and everybody's path is so random and so different, right?
Yeah.
And, when I look at a UCLA versus Howard, or the big school versus the more, unique smaller school or whatever, I don't know if I necessarily would have a recommendation for someone there. I'm always more focused on mindset. Like, I'm big on failure. You know what I mean? Because I think it breeds something in you, right? And I have a friend that always disagrees with me around
Failure.
Yes, so I'm big on failure. Because I think I would say every time I failed, it's caused me to go back to the drawing board, evaluate, and try to make myself better, right? So more than what shot you're gonna shoot, I'm just like, shoot your shot.
Yeah.
Because maybe you succeed, but if you don't, like, you're more than likely gonna get something out of it if you don't put your failure on others, right? If you take it and say, okay, what did I do? What's and how can I improve and get better? I think it does nothing but make you better for that next shot you shoot.
Yeah. That's a really good way to answer that question. You turned down any progress at Nike because you're going to the NBA, and you go back to college.
Yeah.
How does the rest of sort of that play out?
So I finished school. Man, this is where it gets interesting, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's a lot happens in a very short time span. I still kind of have these hoop dreams. I'm telling you, man, hoop dreams, it's like the toughest thing ever, right? You spend your whole life perfecting a craft, and at some point you got to give it up. For most people, even 20-year pros.
But that's what kills me about that. Is like, if you're not one of these stars, and even some of them obviously blow through their money, but I'm saying, if you're not one of these stars, it's like, you make really good money, but it's not necessarily lifelong money if it's not managed properly, depending on your lifestyle.
You're right.
Right.
You're right.
What I'm saying is, you're left at the end of it with nothing.
Yeah.
Like, I always talk about it with skateboarding, right? So picture skateboarding. 'Cause I grew up skateboarding, and all I wanted in life was to be a pro skateboarder.
Yeah.
But what happens is, you go out, you skate. I can't remember off the top of my head how much the average pro skateboarder makes, but I'm guessing it's probably sub $100,000 a year. You tear your body to shreds, and then literally at like 30, you're done, and you have no skills, and you have no But it's the same with athletes. Like, it's a crazy sort of setup.
It's tough. It's tough to know when it's done. I think what makes you successful in anything is there being no plan B, right? It's like there's only a plan A, because plan B only distracts from plan A, kind of thing, right? And it makes it hard to know when to kind of hang it up. So along those lines, I finished playing, in college, and I was smart enough to apply to grad school, but I still wanted to play. So my sister was in med school down in North Carolina, and it was funny. I remember graduating, and she says, "Okay, Jeron, you're going to graduate. What are you going to do the next day?" I'm like, she kept asking me this. I'm like, why do you keep asking me this?
Like, leave me alone.
And then I realized why she was asking me, because you got to move out the dorm. You're no longer on scholarship, right? Like, life really does change, right? And it's funny, like, we were moving my stuff. My parents were like, "Where are you going?" I was like, I'm going to North Carolina. You know what I mean? Like literally made it up on the spot. But I go down there to play on this team called the Winston-Salem Storm. It was like an ABA team. Thinking, like, I'm just going to figure it out. That was terrible. They kind of folded within the first month, and I'm kind of down in Winston-Salem, and my sister's getting on my nerves. And literally, my sister's very type A, very meticulous. Like, I'm talking she'll vacuum, and she's like, "Walk along the vacuum line." It's kind of thing. I'm like, I can't stay here any longer. So I'm like, I get the acceptance letter from Georgetown, go back up to DC, and I I start grad school at Georgetown doing a sports management program with an emphasis in strategic marketing. And life kind of started to start, right? No longer on scholarship.
Yeah.
Got to figure out where I'm going to
like,
live.
Reality check a little bit.
Yeah, taking out some loans. I'm like interning everywhere. I literally interned at the Redskins, at the DC United, which was the MLS team there, the Washington Nationals. Even went to the training camp down in Melbourne, Florida. Like, it was crazy. I had no interest in baseball though. And you know, started working with the Washington Wizards doing PR and communications, which, you know, I thought team sports might be like somewhere I thought I could work, but you know, after you get past the game, like, you're kind of working for. It felt like to me that you were working for another org, you know. And I still wanted to play. So I'm like sitting there. I'm like,
wait for that to, like,
I think I can get these guys, you know.
You're just sitting there judging.
Yeah, no, seriously, it was bad. Hoop dreams, man. They'll kill you.
No shit.
So I write this master's thesis on mobile marketing strategy, and it ends up getting published in the International Journal of Mobile Marketing. And I started getting a lot of interest on this research. And mind you, the only reason I went to grad school is because Nike wasn't ready to hire me, right? I'm like, yo, Nike, I'm here. Like, and I'm thinking, like, it'll be easier to get in from an internship, like through an internship, than trying to just come in at you know, in a full-time role. But still didn't get the internship even when I was at Georgetown.
Was there a moment of like going back, like mentally, of like you sort of turned it down the first time and then you were like, hey guys, I'm back, I'm ready to?
No, because it was like one or two people in the Chicago office were trying to help me. It wasn't like, it was totally separate. So I'm like sending emails, and you know, I'm working it, right? Like, you know, I'm being, I always say, be hungry, not thirsty, right? Like, don't be a thirst bucket. Like, you know, there's a strategic way to network and be persistent, right? And this was part of my process of learning the strategy, right? I probably was too persistent at times. You know, probably wasn't persistent enough at others. I'm like, this is balance, right? But the issue was there was no Nike office in DC. Nike had offices in LA, New York, Chicago, and Portland, Oregon, domestically in the US.
Got it.
So, you know, this research is kind of doing well. So I'm like, maybe there's something to this. So Nike still hasn't hired me. And I'm like, gotta figure it out. My parents are like, just go get a job. I'm like, no. Because I'm like, that's gonna distract from me getting 100%. To Nike, right? Like,
I feel like that sometimes is like a terrible chain of events that starts. It's like you give up to that, and then it sort of beats your spirit
then you
down,
start going, and you go a different direction. I would have worked for. They wouldn't even hire me to work for them for free, right? Like, if they would have had a free, like, I would have done it, you know. So I had applied to grad school again. Applied to Columbia University, get a master's of science in information and digital resource management, and I get in. And luckily, a friend of mine had a apartment right next to Columbia. So I moved to New York. And I'm like, Nike has a New York office. I'm going to make this happen.
I'm going to go wait outside of it.
Honestly, man, I got depressed, man.
Why?
I'm not going to lie. I'm going to break it down for you.
This is good.
So now I'm on my second master's program, right? Racking up the loans, right? Like, no, like, substantial, like, real, like, substantial income, you know. I don't want to ask my parents for any help, you know, because I'm like, they're telling me to go one way. I'm telling them I believe in this other way.
So you got to.
I want to follow. This is what I want to do. I want to follow this path. So I'm at Columbia. I'm going to school every day, not knowing why I'm doing this. I'm like, what am I doing this for? I already have a master's degree. How's this going to help me? So Nike calls me. I get a call from that same Chicago office from this guy I worked for. And he goes, Jeron, I have an opening, marketing specialist position in our brand management org. And do you want it? That's how he says it. He's like, do you want it? You know, I'm playing it cool. I'm like, yeah, absolutely. I want it. Yeah, you know. For sure, right? He's like, okay, cool. HR is going to call you tomorrow. We're going to get this ball rolling. We're going to get this done. I'm like, I've made it, right? It's my moment, right? My pursuit of happiness moment when he comes outside, he's like clapping, like, right? I'm like, I made it. And like, you know, things just started to kind of slow down. Like HR called me, we were talking, you know, how much do I want to make, you know, relocation, the whole deal, right? And then like I hadn't heard from anybody in a while. I'm like, what's going on? And he's like, hey, we had to go with another candidate. You know, he was like, beyond my control, we had to go with another candidate. I'm like, what? Like, I'm looking at
spots in Chicago, like the whole deal. And now I'm like, that was my best shot. Like, I was like, that was my shot. Like, it doesn't get any better than that. I worked in that office. I worked for this guy. When I was an intern, I pretty much did that job. Like we're good. Doesn't work out. So now I'm like, what the heck? So now I'm really depressed. I'm still going to school, still racking up loans. Mm-hmm. And I'm walking back from class, and I was like, I don't think this is going to happen. Like, and all this time I've been like I'm like, no, I'm gonna make this happen. I'm gonna go to New York. Everybody's telling me to do it this way. I'm like, no, I'm gonna do it this way. Yeah. So I'm like, you know what, man? This is really bad, right? You're getting the true Hollywood story right here.
I love it.
I go to the Naval Recruiter's office because I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna go to the Navy. I'm gonna disappear. I'm gonna travel the world. I probably should have went to the Naval Academy out of college, out of high school anyway. And I'm just gonna, cause like I didn't want to deal with like, hey, like it didn't work out. You know, I didn't want to deal with that. Like, you know what I mean?
How old are you at this point? 23?
I am 23.
Yeah.
I'm 23. And maybe 22 or 23. And
so that was like your kind of like not giving up moment, but you're like,
no, it's my giving up moment.
Okay, all right.
Like, you know how you tell people never give up? Like, I'm like, I can't really tell anybody that. I was like, I was done. So I get all the pamphlets and paperwork. Didn't sign any papers, but get all the information. I come back. I'm sitting on my park bench. And I have like a long talk with God. I'm like mad at God. I'm like, man. Yeah. I'm like, everybody told me this is what you're supposed to do. I went, got my degree, got good grades, got a master's degree, got all this work, like good internship experience. I did everything I was supposed to do. And it did not work out. Like I'm sitting here and it didn't work out. Like I did not accomplish my goal, my objective. This is what I wanted. I wanted it bad. They're like, go harder. Doesn't work, go harder. Oh, your blessing might be right around the corner, right? Like if you give up today, your blessing might be there tomorrow. I'm like, exactly. Like I'm going through every single quote, every single talk I've ever had in my head. I'm like, it did not work, right? And I felt like God was like, either you're gonna trust me or you're not. It's like, you're either gonna have faith in me or you're not. And I'm like, well, I gotta think about it. So go back in my apartment, I'm kind of sitting there, kind of pray on it a little bit, and I was like, you know what? I have faith. I'm rocking, you know. And the crazy thing is, my situation, my circumstances didn't change, but my perspective changed, and that changed everything.
From what? Just from that sort of moment?
Yeah, from that moment of saying, you know what? Like it's funny, like you know, there's like this verse in the Bible talking about how God takes care of the birds, right? Like they always have something to eat. They're always taken care of. And I was kind of had this moment where I was sitting there in my apartment. I was like, okay, you know, I got a roof over my head. I got clothes, you know, I'm eating, like, you know, I live to fight another day. You know, I'm not where I want to be, but I live to fight another day. I'm taken care of. And it was like one of those moments where I was like, stop complaining. Like I was mad. Every day. I was like, man, it's just not working. Like, it's supposed to work. I did everything I was supposed to do and it's not working. It was like, stop complaining. And just move forward, right? It's like, okay, I feel like the unique thing about faith, right? It's like, you know, if the doctor tells you, hey, we found this lump, this mass in your chest, and we don't know if it's malignant or benign, we don't know if it's cancerous, whatever. Yeah. And, you know, faith is saying like, or let me actually give you a different example. I feel like faith is like you're broke today and God's telling you like there's this, you know, you're not gonna be broke tomorrow. Like, you know, are you gonna live life like you're worried because you don't have any money today, or are you gonna live life like you have it? Like I remember when I bought my first Range Rover. I always wanted a Range Rover and I bought it, right? And my mom was like, "You don't seem excited." I was like, "Mom, I've had this in my head for 5 years." You know what I mean? And that's. I feel like that's the essence of faith, right? It's like it's belief in things that are unseen, right? That you don't have yet, right? You're just kind of trusting God for it, and that's kind of like that switch I had. That's that moment I had where I was like, okay, everything is gonna be all right. Stop complaining, and just do what you need to do. Yeah, and not once again, circumstances didn't change, but perspective was completely different. Some months go by.
Man, that's crazy. Let me just say that's crazy. Like, it's crazy to not only be able to sort of conjure that up out of your own brain without any, you know, like real practice, like maybe somebody sitting you down and saying whatever, and then to be able to have the sort of mental fortitude to stick to it.
Yeah,
To say like,
yeah.
this is my new perspective, and I'm going. Have you ever read Think and Grow Rich?
No, I haven't read that book.
You should read it.
I will.
It's that.
Okay,
It's
absolutely.
about like believing that you are it before you're
Absolutely.
it, and then
Absolutely.
and then acting as if, and then whatever.
Absolutely.
Right? Because the moment, to your point, I mean, I don't, not to be like teacher here, and
Yeah.
this is what you're saying, but is like the moment you lose faith and start feeling like the world's unfair, and
Yeah.
you're not going to get it, and then you won't get it.
Yeah.
Because you're going to be acting scared, you're going to be working
Yeah.
scared, you're going to,
You're right.
you know what I mean?
You
And
you
it's
go
like,
a different direction.
yeah, and I've also had the same thing of getting something like a Range Rover and sort of being happy, but feeling like you're just in your car.
Yeah.
Like you just finally got your car
Yeah,
back.
right.
You know, and people are kind of
Absolutely.
looking at you like, "Look, asshole." Like,
Absolutely.
you know what I mean? You're kind of like, "No, I just."
I tell everyone, it's like I've been seeing this for years. Like I always
Yeah.
tell people, I live my life in the future and I'm just waiting for time to catch up. Like
Yeah.
it's like I already know who I am. It's just time hasn't caught up, you know?
It's like when you're in that Toyota Corolla, you're just borrowing your
Right,
friend's
right,
car
right.
until yours comes back.
No, you know, you're no, absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
that's crazy, man.
Um,
Okay, so keep going.
Yeah, so months go by and this job posts. And I'm like, all right, I'm gonna give it a shot.
Yeah.
Right. And there's this guy, his name is Brian McGovern. Hey, Brian McGovern, if you're listening, man, thank you, my brother.
Thank you, Brian.
So I used to email Brian McGovern every time a Nike job would post. And Brian went to Georgetown with me, he went to grad school with me, but he was already working at Nike.
Got it.
And I used to just bug this guy. Like every time a job would post, hey, Brian, right? Like
Yeah,
he just ignored
that's
me.
that hunger.
He just always ignored me, But I email him every time anyway. So I email him, like my normal routine, right? And he goes, he replies, he goes, Jeron, do you really want this job? I'm like
Like, what?
what kind of question is that?
Sent you 50 emails.
I'm like,
Brian.
absolutely, exactly, right? I'm like, absolutely. He's like, all right, I'm gonna write you a letter of recommendation. And he writes me a letter. He sends it to me. I'm like, man, I didn't even know he was paying attention like that. Like, really good letter. He's like, hey, you're gonna get a phone screen. If you make it to the final panel interview, call me. I'm gonna help prepare you. So I make it to the final interview. I call him, and you know, my dad always says people perish for lack of knowledge, and it's interesting because I really felt that in this situation where he really prepped me. I was gonna go as hard as possible to get this job.
Yeah.
But like the way he prepared me really set me up for success. And I'm like, if he hadn't, I don't think I would have got that job.
Yeah.
Right. And eternally grateful to him for doing this.
Did
and
he give you sort of a heads up of what they were going to be covering, or was it like a perspective change from him too?
Yeah, a
or?
little bit of everything, like kind of the structure, what they were gonna be covering, and then how to prep for that.
Yeah.
From how I should greet them to how I should leave them to the materials I should prepare for them, like a little bit of everything. He really broke it down into a science. It was a very strategic approach to interviewing for this job.
Yeah.
Anyway, Nike makes you teach them something for this particular job in order to get this job. And then it's funny, right? I taught them how to solve a Rubik's Cube, right? And I think it really set me apart. It was funny, right? Learn how to solve a Rubik's Cube. It's the gift that keeps on giving, right? Like
You can teach someone how to do it?
yeah, I mean, it's a series of algorithms, and it's a matter of memorizing these algorithms.
Okay, so I just got one, and everyone keeps telling me that all you have to do is like move the top thing and the left thing over and over until they line up. That's not true, correct?
Man, you know what? I've seen that, and I've never. it's
Okay,
never
thank
worked.
God. 'Cause it's pissing me off.
It's
'Cause
not,
I'm like, man, if that does work, the whole
it's
thing
like,
is stupid.
Yeah,
Like,
it's
I'm
not
gonna-
accurate.
Yeah,
No.
okay.
There are a few methods, but the simplest method is you start with a cross, fill in the corners, and you go by layer, right? And that last layer is the most difficult. But yeah, so
Mine's in the closet. I gave up.
I teach them how to solve this Rubik's Cube. It goes well. You know, oftentimes they, you know, you have this formalized interview process, but they sometimes they know who they want already. So
Yeah.
another guy ended up getting the job, the guy I'm still friends with to this day. And they don't call me for like 2 months.
So they told you did all that prep, you did everything right, and they're like, nope.
They're like, hey, you did a good job.
Another guy.
But then
Thanks for the
here,
tips on the
yeah,
Rubik's Cube.
yeah. So they called me 2 months later, and they're like, hey, sorry we took so long. You impressed us. You did a great job. The reason we took so long is because, you know, we really want to bring you on. We just had to petition to HR to get in another headcount to create a job for you. As amazing as it was at that time, you know, internally, that's a very difficult process. It doesn't happen every day, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, it literally, things just lined up just too well, right? And I'm getting this job, but I'd been sitting on the sidelines forever, so I came in on fire. I was just hungry. Like, I honestly, I would have mopped the floors and got everyone coffee every day. That wasn't my job, but I didn't care. You know what I mean? Like, I wanted to work at Nike so bad. Literally, like, when I got my badge, my black badge, like, I was on top of the world. Every time I scan it, I get the, it sounds corny, I know, but I get the feeling
real,
like,
bro.
I'm like, I made it. Like, this is my secondary league dream. Like,
Yeah. That's just the difference of like finding like something that you're really passionate about.
For
and
sure.
not, man. And
No,
I
it's amazing.
It's like I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you find it.
Yeah.
But like if I could
Right,
somehow
right.
gift anyone with anything,
Right.
it would be to have that feeling when
Right.
you go to work.
Right. No, absolutely. It was amazing. I mean, I had an amazing time working there. And
What was the job?
so my first job there was called an Ekin, right? And Ekin is
Is that
kind
Nike
of,
terminology? Or
it
that
is.
real
It is
word?
Nike terminology. So it's probably most akin to a product tech rep, but it's called an Ekin because it's Nike spelled backwards, and it's kind of rooted in the thinking that you're supposed to know Nike forwards and backwards, and it's kind of sits at the intersection of like kind of brand marketing, sales, and merch.
Got it.
And you're really responsible for, educating consumers and retailers on Nike innovation, technology, and storytelling.
Got it.
It's funny. This is gonna be bad. Sorry to all my Nike friends, but they take you to Eugene to kind of really kind of indoctrinate you in the brand.
Put you in the cult.
Yeah, no, for sure. And most Egans are known for getting the Nike tattoos.
Oh,
They're like,
really?
yeah, hey, we're going to get a tattoo. I was like, dude. Right. It's like,
So
hey,
they're the most,
see you
like,
there.
in it.
Oh yeah,
You're in.
you love the brand, right?
Yep.
And I love the brand. Like the brand is Prefontaine. It's not Michael Jordan. Like I'm growing up on the on that hoop side of the brand. Like Nike is a running.
Yeah.
It's rooted in as a running company.
Yep.
I don't like running.
I
So
hate
they
it.
take you to what they call Pre's Rock, right? And like, I didn't know the Prefontaine story before kind of coming to Nike. I should have. I knew a little bit,
I just know it from Shoe Dog.
No, absolutely, right? So this is Pre's Rock. This is where Pre, died
Yeah.
in the car accident.
Yeah.
And everybody starts like breaking down, like Pre, like we miss you, Pre.
Even like young people that had no idea.
Dude. I mean, no, they had an idea. They knew.
Well, they know the story.
Yeah,
but like
they know
I'm
the
saying, you
story.
weren't you didn't know him.
Dude, I was sitting there like, what is going on right now? Like, where am I? Right? This is like a serious business. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
this like Ekin thing is like for real. Like
Talk about branding.
Ekin's is like they say Phil Knight was the first Ekin. It's like these are the most passionate people in the company. Like we say E4L. It's like you're Ekin for life.
Yep.
And you're
You have that
part.
tattooed on you anywhere?
I do not. I don't have any tattoos, man. So that was kind of my excuse.
Yeah.
I was thinking like, should I get a swoosh tattoo on my neck and see if I'd still be accepted?
E4L above your
like,
eyebrow.
Yeah, like on my face, right? Like we good?
That'd be
we good
fine.
still?
Corporate
Right?
America loves
yeah,
that.
Yeah, we're good, right? So yeah, they indoctrinate you in the brand. And so I did that in New York. My territory was Soho, Staten Island, and Queens.
Got it.
Amazing job. And it's a flexible job. So I was able to finish at Columbia while I was in Ekin.
Oh wow.
Right. And this is kind of how you start to do so many things in a tight, you just stretch yourself out. You kind of overlap, right?
Yeah.
So I'm working and going to grad school and I'm doing this, I'm doing that, So then, I get a promotion and I moved to Portland, Oregon, working on the Nike basketball business.
Was that like you're going to the Mecca? Like, was that how it felt, or was it more like?
No, it was big. It was big. I didn't really want to move to Oregon per se, but
Yeah,
New York is tough living, man. Like New York is hard living.
New York is hard. I could never live in New York.
Yeah, especially you can't be, a rookie at a company,
No.
working
hell no.
working in New York. Like
Yeah.
it's just tough, right?
Yeah.
I'm like when they have catering at the office, I'm like,
Just put it in
I'm
your
like
pockets.
for the win, like
Yeah,
let's
yeah.
go, like let's go,
Bring your
right?
backpack.
I spent a lot of time at the office, right? Because the office was better than my apartment, So I'm like,
100%.
rather be here all day.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm telling you, the struggle just breeds just like
It
really good
does,
habits,
man. It does. So you were like excited, but I mean, Portland's obviously not the most incredible place
Exactly.
to live. But you're
I was
happy that
excited
at
'cause
least, like,
I really wanted to work on basketball.
Yeah.
And I wanted to be in the brand marketing org, and that's what I always wanted to do, because that's what I did during my internship.
Yep.
And this is where everything changed, right? So there was at the time Nike basketball was on fire. There's a lot of like glitz and glamour and working in hoops, right? You got the best athletes.
Yeah.
You're going all over the world or whatever. Boss was like, he said this. He was kind about it, and this is like Boss is like my favorite guy to this day. But he was kind of like, don't think you're gonna be traveling and doing what like basically like what you've seen everybody else doing. Like, you're here to work kind of thing. And I had no problem with that. I was just happy to be there, right? So, our GM used to get in the office at like 7:15, and like my goal was just to beat him every day and like work longer than him because our GM VP was like the hardest working guy in the company, a guy named Dan Jones, and it just created really good work habits. My boss goes on sabbatical, right, which means like it's like a 6 weeks vacation for putting in 10 years, and then every 5 years after you get a sabbatical. So I'm kind of like the only guy left in North America brand. And it's an NBA lockout. And during the lockout, it was kind of interesting because no longer could you kind of debut footwear on court. And, it kind of disrupted a lot of your traditional marketing strategy, right? So you kind of had to look at marketing strategy a little bit differently and get a little creative. Problem was you also had to respect the NBA because we had a really close relationship. Nike had a close relationship with the league. So there was this, they were prepping for a TV concept, and every TV concept starts with a marketing brief. So, I get eyes on the brief, and, the brief is, they're basically setting the table, right? It's an NBA lockout, but the game never doesn't stop, and, people are still playing all around the world, and they still love these athletes. Basketball doesn't stop, right? It was kind of part of this brief. And me and a Nike colleague of mine were both young at the time, and we get on the phone. We're like, dude, like that's it. Like basketball never stops. Like that's it, right? Totally green. I don't know marketing process. I don't understand the integrated marketing machine. I just don't get it yet, right? All I know is basketball never stops. Is it. Like that's our consumer facing messaging. Like that's it, right? Like what else? What else is there to talk about, right? So, get with the powers that be and kind of tell him my idea, and he's like basically like crushing my dreams. Like, let me tell you how this works. Like, this is a marketing brief. This marketing brief goes to our creative agency, White and Kennedy at the time. They will come back with, he's breaking down the whole process for me. I'm like, okay,
like, but what do you mean?
What does this have to do? What does this have to do with what I'm trying to do, right? So he basically tells me I can't do it, and so we're in this our global IMM, and our VP kind of says, hey, like I'm hearing some of our guys are playing in these like lockout games for the fans. What are we doing? And that same guy that told me I couldn't do basketball never stops was like, hey, Jeron, he has kind of a plan around this, right? So I'm like, yeah, dude, like I'm not about to ask about basketball never stops, but like, yeah, I have a plan, right? So I get on the phone with my guy. His name is Chad, still a good friend of mine to this day. And I'm like, hey, I think we can do this.
Like we accidentally, this kind of worked.
Yeah. So I'm like, so I don't know if I probably emailed my boss. He was still on sabbatical. I'm like, hey, just want to let you know this is what I'm doing. He has no idea what I'm talking about, right? He's like, hey, as long as there's a commercial payoff, which means like put a shoe in the market and make sure it sells, right? At the time, Nike basketball was on fire. Everything was 100% sell through. Like we're good. We put a shoe in the market. That thing blew out. 100% sell through. I go straight to the game, and I worked with the digital team to make sure we can communicate broadly around this basketball never stops messaging. Had the t-shirts. Funny story about the t-shirts. Oh, I'll get to that in a second. Anyway, this game goes. It was Goodman League versus the Drew League, and it's a lockout game. It's packed in there. Energy is off the Richter scale, and people really gravitated to this basketball never stops thing, right? I still didn't know it was anything, right? Like, hey, went well, successful day. I was just glad I got to go to DC and go to this game. I come back, and a few weeks later, there was another game in Baltimore, did the same thing. And then these lockout games started happening, and then Kevin Durant ended up in Sports Illustrated with this basketball never stops tee on. And there was no basketball never stops campaign. This is just something we're just out there doing, right?
Did you just print them for the games?
So this is where it gets funny.
Okay.
So there's a whole process. Nike is a huge machine, right?
Yeah.
So first he's like, it was kind of awkward for a minute because I didn't know if I was going to get in trouble or if it was going to be good or bad. Because he's asking about these tees and he's holding up this magazine and he tells me, good job, right? I'm like, just like for the win, right?
Yeah.
Then he goes, so, these T-shirts, like, and I think I didn't even know I was being set up at the time, but like, he's asking me about these T-shirts. He's like, so where does the T-shirts come from? And the correct answer is like to start talking about, the internal process with the creative team and all that kind of stuff, right? So I'm like, hey, I had a guy print them. He's like, you had a guy print them? I'm like, who did you have print them? I was like, this guy in New York, I don't really know him. My colleague Chad that I was working with, he knew the guy.
Yeah. Standard business.
Yeah, here's the funniest part, man. So he goes, so Jeron, so you basically have some guy in his garage printing official Nike T-shirts. I'm like, I'm thinking this is like real serious. I'm like, I was like, I don't think he was in his garage. Like, I think he had.
Was that your real answer?
Like, I have no real answer. Literally in a meeting, right? I'm like the lowest guy on the totem pole. I'm like, real meeting, right? And the worst part of it all, right? This guy, he's not an official. I don't know. I still don't know who this guy is to this day.
Yeah.
And he needs a design file.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I'm not, I don't sit on, Illustrator all day, right?
Yeah.
He's like, I need to know what you want this to look like. Like, send me the
art,
the artwork.
Yeah.
I get on Microsoft Word and I literally go, basketball, enter, never, enter, stops, Arial font, send it over. So if you look at the first basketball never stops tees, this is bad. I don't even know why I'm saying this. But like, if you look at the first basketball never stops tees, they're in Arial font. They're like white tees.
Microsoft Word.
Yeah, literally Microsoft Word. Sent them the file, printed them out, right?
So was there Nike logos or no?
There's a swoosh on there too.
Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
you go on Google. Like, no, we had a design file for the swoosh. Throw it on the bottom.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh man, I didn't even know I was breaking the rules at this time. I was literally green. I was literally just reacting to a moment, right? I had a hunch, felt it. My colleague felt it. We were like, let's do this. And this thing ends up blowing up, man. Like, it goes crazy. Like, if you go to a store right now, there's still basketball never stops tees in the marketplace.
Yeah.
Obviously now it's like the correct Nike font and the correct standards.
Yeah.
But it's still something that they message around. But this really set me up for success.
Really?
I think this really it really, there's a guy, an executive at Nike that used to say, like, be famous for something. And I would say that was really my first moment at Nike that really, and it was crazy because it happened. I didn't even know what was happening. Next thing I know, I'm just on a plane going to all these, they were calling them basketball never stops games, and I'm like, yo, what is going on?
How did they treat it initially? Did they say, like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Or were they kind of like, listen, good job, but
you know what?
Like, what's the reaction to that?
My boss was on sabbatical. So literally, I'm like a 24, 25-year-old kid, like, just going.
Yeah.
I'm
so
just like,
softened that. Like, you didn't get, like, pulled into a room and screamed at.
No, I didn't. Like, and I probably, like, off the Arial font, I should have been like
at least use Illustrator next time.
Yeah. No, seriously.
Come on.
No, seriously. No, that was a problem.
Because I just think I could just imagine, right? If you're, and even now, look at it now. If you were the manager of that area at Nike, and one of your kids did that, it's like you would be mad because it was so not by the rules.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you'd be like, shit, this kid has something. Like, this kid's hungry.
Yeah, I remember it was probably one of the best compliments ever paid to me. That VP, the global VP of brand, he said, Jeron, you're an it guy. Whatever it is, you got it.
Wow.
And I was like,
Jesus.
no idea what that means, but that's
but
good. That's good stuff. That's
Yeah.
good stuff. And that's kind of, that's what he told me. And then, my boss comes back from sabbatical and he goes, Jeron, I have a meeting with all of our senior level executives, and I need to talk about what basketball never stops is and what's going on. I need you to break this down to me in 5 minutes or less, like right now.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm like, all right, so this is what happened. Like, no, it was amazing.
How cool, man.
It was amazing.
That's that's the dream.
And
I would say that's equivalent to like making it to the NBA and having sort of a rookie game-winning buzzer beater.
I definitely
Like
felt
that's
like
your moment.
I to this day I say working at Nike I felt like I was in the league. Like,
Yeah,
100%. And this really set me up, you know. And then I kind of go on this world tour. We were launching Nike Plus footwear, which was these hyper dunks with chips in them.
got it.
That kind of measure your vertical, kind of your activity level.
Yeah.
And
I remember that at they had all the things at all the stores. Right?
exactly,
Got it.
exactly. So, Shanghai, China, London is Olympic year, Paris, Barcelona. I'm just gone for like 4 months, like just.
And had you really traveled much before that?
No, I wasn't. I was never before that. I was never big on travel. So now here I am at Nike, and I'm like seeing the whole world on Nike's dime.
Yeah.
And it was a beautiful thing. And like, you know, it was kind of like, you know, it was crazy. It was like, you know, I'm in Paris. That's how I discovered Uber. Like I was trying to figure out how to get around. Like I'm just kind of out there.
Like right when they were testing it or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Like brand new,
exactly. He was like, Uber. And I'm like, okay.
Like, oh, shit, I'll take it.
let's check it out.
Yeah.
And so it was good, you know. And so that was amazing. I kind of come back from that, and then I realized what my real job was. Right? I'm like, okay, then
like back to reality.
Yeah,
sort of
it was
thing?
like,
Got it.
I didn't get the reality before because I kind of came into this job and like things just exploded. Basketball stops. It's an Olympic year. I'm all over the world.
Yep.
Like I was working in North America brand, but I was kind of given a global stretch assignment.
Yeah.
So like, I'm trying to just like, I'm like all over the place. Like it was like, you know how, you know, failure sets you up to do great things, right?
Mm-hmm.
It makes you better.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was just so much success that I was like, oh man, this is what my real job is.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh man, this is crazy.
Yeah.
So I had to kind of deal with reality a little bit, you
yeah.
know. Now I'm back to like creating, you know, brand strategy decks on Keynote. And,
You're like, I was
you know,
just in Paris. Have you guys heard of Uber?
yeah, I know,
Let
right?
me tell you about it.
Yeah, it was kind of crazy, but it was good, right? It was it sounds crazy, but I'm a big fan of humbling experiences, right?
Yeah.
Like and it was like, okay,
Yeah, they're fun when they're over.
yeah,
you know?
exactly.
Yeah.
It gives you a new perspective.
Yeah.
So I'm back to creating decks for somebody else to go present, which was cool. You know, that's part of the job.
Mm-hmm.
And I do this for a few years, and CP gets traded to the Clippers.
Yep.
And you know, Jordan Brand was really looking to get you know, much more, you know, strategic around their territory offense, and they were starting to put marketing leads in LA, New York, and Chicago.
Yep.
And when CP came to play for the Clippers, he had Blake, 2 Jordan Brand athletes, and they were looking to put someone in LA. And like you talk about your dream, my dream was to work on brand marketing strategy in Los Angeles. Like, I'm like, this is like,
that's how we were talking earlier about like if you get drafted or traded to a shitty city. It's almost like, working for Nike's incredible, but not to be greedy, but if you could work at Nike and be in LA, it'd be a dream come true. Man, I get it.
This was an amazing experience. I mean, we launched the hangar in Playa Vista. We had First to Fly in Vegas, which was, you know, something, you know, you had to fight for, but I think once I feel like consumer's the ultimate trump card, right?
Yep.
So in Vegas, the end of July, there are 15,000 or more of your core consumer demographics. You know, like just people coming to Vegas to play basketball.
Yeah.
You're talking about, it's like 5 tournaments. It's like this 3-day period. It's like a very narrow window. And I was like, we have to launch product during this time period. Like there's nothing else that makes this much sense.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, you know, that ended up being just an amazing experience, and, you know, did that for a few years in a row. Hangar, like, you know, you're talking about the ultimate basketball experience, displaying Jordan Brand innovation and then getting to experience that innovation, right?
That thing was incredible. So at Jordan, you had way more power,
freedom, and latitude.
Creative,
I think probably. I mean, that was an unprecedented job, right? Like I had been at Nike long enough to know this is like, this is not this is a special. I'm sitting in a very special window here. Like, okay, you know, this goes on. Like at some point, they're gonna will it in, and
gonna
you're
get humbled again.
Yeah. It's coming,
But
right?
damn it, let's do the hanger in the meantime.
Yeah, exactly. No, it was a special time period, and we did the Glass Cube downtown.
Yep.
Next to Staples, and CP was just he was an amazing athlete to work with, and the awesome thing about CP is that he understood the business, right? And he understood the business around his signature product, and he was always down to help me drive that strategy forward.
That's so huge.
He always showed up. He was always there, and shout out to CP.
Yeah, CP.
And I know you guys work with him too, so I know you guys. But
he's just a smart guy. It's like, and I know even from the work we do, which is very different than Jordan Brand, CP, all this shit. But like, it's just a night and day difference when somebody is on board and understands what you're trying to do, as opposed to like, oh, this is my endorsement deal, and I guess I'll show up late if I have to.
Yeah, no, for sure.
It's just huge. But
yeah, so I'm in LA. I'm from here. I'm loving life. It was my opportunity to do like all the dope ideas I had in my head. Like I had a boss that got it. He understood, right? Really creative guy, and like I think the secret sauce. Like everybody would say, like, oh, the hanger was so amazing. I'm like, the amazing thing is understanding it strategically well enough to sell it into the org, right?
Yeah.
Everybody has amazing ideas, but you have to garner buy-in, right? Like, and that's the hard part, right?
Yeah.
And,
nobody knows that part of it.
Right? Oh, yeah. Everyone's like, why don't you do this? I'm like, you don't understand.
Yeah, there's a whole
you understand this
sort
other
of
apparatus.
mountain.
Yeah, for sure. And that's what I was probably most proud of, like, is really being able to sell this in, kind of understand our global brand and North America strategy well enough to kind of sell in these really unique and big ideas and to make them align with Jordan Brand Nike strategy in a way that it made sense for our executives, right?
Yep. You gotta be a salesman. You learned how to be a salesman, I take it, huh?
Yeah, I mean, it's humbling at the same time though, because everybody's like, "Oh, this is so cool, this is so amazing." I'm like, you are really being enabled to do these things, right? Like, it takes a yes, it takes the marketing budget, it takes someone giving you the okay, right? Like, so it's like, you're being enabled to do amazing stuff and kind of being put in this spot to like really kill it. But at the same time, it's humbling because I've been around the org long enough to know like it's as simple as getting a no and
and it's over.
You're not doing
no
it.
too. Like the initial guy, like, nah, I don't like it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And so, got to do all the things I always wanted to do, Google Plus chats, different, glow in the dark dunk contest, really aligning with our retailers in LA to get, to really connect back with the brand strategy, align sales with marketing, and really drive a really strategic offense in LA. It was an amazing experience.
Yep.
And this landed me on the Forbes list.
That's incredible.
Yeah,
that was 2015?
2015, Forbes 30 under 30, yeah.
I'm so jealous. I'm so incredibly jealous. One time I had an interview with Forbes last year, and the lady was sort of like, she was like, "Oh, this is incredible. And I didn't really know anything about you. I know about this story." She's like, "When's your birthday?" And I'm like, December 4th. She's like, shit, you're going to be 3 months too late. I would have put you in line for possibly. Man. And I was like, fuck, right? Like, that's probably would have been one of my biggest goals.
No, game changer.
It didn't really hit me that it would have been one of my biggest goals probably until 29.
Yeah.
Which was too late. But I'm incredibly jealous.
Total game changer.
So how's that? They just hit you up and like, hey man, like,
there were some people that were around in LA that really were able to experience a lot of the things that were happening.
Yeah.
And they were advocates for me.
Yeah.
They really went the extra mile to really like put me in that spot,
Yep.
And but Forbes doesn't tell you, like I didn't know I was gonna make the list until the list came out. Matter of fact, my boss sent it to me.
But did you know you were up for it?
I knew I was a candidate. They tell
you didn't know how serious that was.
They don't like let on that, hey, like you're gonna be Forbes on it. So you can't even really ask like, it's like, hey, don't get presumptuous kind of thing, right?
Yeah. So let me ask you this: was it sort of like you're waiting for the moment that it's released because you're checking, or do you wake up to a text message from somebody like, congratulations?
It was definitely the latter. But so it's weird because I didn't even know when the list was coming out. And they don't tell you. It's not like, hey, check the newsstands tomorrow.
Who made the softball team?
Yeah, you just start getting all these mentions on Instagram, and people start emailing you and calling you, and you know, it was a unique, it was a pretty big deal. It's pretty amazing.
That's so cool.
You know, I appreciated it. It was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Like
jealous.
Nike's not really big on individual accolades, so I don't think it wasn't the best for me internally, but
Yeah.
that's a conversation for another day.
Yeah, but fuck it, man. It's so
It
worth
was
it.
probably worth it though. It's probably worth it.
So worth it. 'Cause what's incredible to me is like that's one of those things that you can never go back and do again.
Yeah.
You outgrow it, and it's sort of for the rest of your life. You were on the Forbes 30 under 30.
Yeah,
so
for
even
sure.
when you're 60,
Absolutely.
it's like, yo, this kid has been killing it for at least 30 years. You know what I'm saying?
No, that's amazing. No, I never thought about it like that.
That's what I'm saying. It's
pretty
locked
awesome.
in history
Yeah.
that you were that good that early. You know what I'm saying? So it doesn't
No,
matter.
you know what? It's cool, right? Because you know, I really do believe in humility.
Yeah.
But you know, I feel like sometimes like, you know, you have to let people know what you've done.
Oh,
but
yeah.
Forbes was amazing because it's a validator, right? Like it's like, okay, here's what I've done. Like you don't really have to talk about it. You know what I mean? Which is pretty cool.
And it's just such a stamp. The moment you see 30 under 30, and like I said, it's sort of like when you are 60, it'll be like he's been killing it for 30 years.
Yeah.
So he must be incredible now.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
No, definitely a
jealous.
humbling experience, man. And it was really a testament to like, you know, the teams I worked on, and once again, like enabled, right? Like, you know, it's a testament to my boss at Jordan Brand and on the Nike side that really enabled me, believed in me, allowed me to really go out and do these things. Like you can't really sit there and think like, oh, I'm killing it. Like no man is an island. You know what I mean? Like so, and then working on really, really good teams. But
is that when Barack Obama called?
so yes. So this is where my life. So that was kind of like coming off like one of the best years of my life. Like just doing like some really amazing things from a marketing perspective.
And did you never go back to, like, obviously it wasn't too crazy, but it seems like you had a bit of a sort of cocky phase, right? Did you go back to that, or did you just change?
I think I've gotten. I believe, and I hope people around me will say the same thing. But I believe, year after year, you just get more and more humble, just because you know how quickly or how easily things could not go your way. You know
it's just crazy because what I love about sort of how I'm picturing your story is like you don't come off that way at all. You know what I'm saying? You come off as
Appreciate
like a
that.
very sort of like what's the disciplined, intelligent, like
Appreciate
whatever,
it.
right? And so like I love though that you had that moment. A lot of times on this podcast when people talk about their initial success, I always ask like, were you cocky?
Yeah.
Because a lot of people do.
Yeah,
And I feel like a lot of the people that really make it go through that and then get humbled and build back up the right way.
No, absolutely.
You know?
Absolutely.
Anyway, so that's why I was curious. Like, did you sort of relapse? And, like, oh, I'm on 30 under 30, bitch. Like, you know.
No, I mean, 30 under 30 made me nervous if I'm being like completely transparent. Like, cause I knew it was like at that point I was doing too much. Like I was like, it was a little too much for Nike, I think. Like it was a little too much to fit into this corporate mold, this corporate machine. And I was like, I knew it was kind of cool down time. Like, right. You know, it was just like, you know, once again, like the projects I was working on, it was like some really like cool stuff. And then the Forbes, it was like a lot, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I take on the stretch assignment. The North America director of brand at Jordan Brand went and took a stretch in China, and I came in, took on her role in North America. And the biggest project at the time was really starting to prepare. We were probably like a year or more out, but starting to prepare for Toronto All-Star Weekend.
Yep.
And so I'm starting to prepare for this, right? And I get this phone call. And it's this girl I'm very close with. And at the time, she was getting her MBA at Columbia University. And she's telling me this like story about how, you know, Barack Obama hires this chief digital officer who was part of the founding team at Twitter, and he's like amazing. And his directive from the president was to, you know, start to, you know, bring in some private sector talent to look at government strategy differently and some things like that. And I'm like, okay, this is an amazing story. And she was like, you know, and I had an opportunity to go work at the White House, but I wanted to finish at Columbia. And I'm like, you're crazy. Like, what are you doing? Like, this is the White House. This is a once in a lifetime opportunity. Obama administration, 44. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
She was like, well, I'm glad you said that. Cause, they asked me if I knew of any brand management people that were like similar to me, of my caliber, or whatever the case might be. And she was like, you're the only name that popped up in my head. And I was like, ooh. I was like, ooh. I was
Set
like,
you up.
I was like, whoa. I was like, man, life is good right now.
Yep.
This was my dream. I was living my dream.
Yeah. What a curveball too, because the White House is probably the only thing.
Like, I would get job opportunities all the time, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's LinkedIn or word of mouth or whatever, you interested in this, and I always evaluate them.
Yeah.
And
But it's a pretty easy no, I'm guessing.
yeah, it's like, you take some time, but I'm even if I had a bad day at Nike, I'm like, this is still the most amazing situation. And not only is it the most amazing situation, I get paid for it. Like,
Yeah.
you have intramural sports at Nike, like you develop a camaraderie, like, if you love sport, if that's a part of your fabric, like, man, there's no, like,
Yeah.
I mean, Nike's just it's like Disneyland for what you're working there or something. I don't know. It's like crazy.
Yeah, yeah.
So she hits me with this curveball. I'm like, oh my gosh. And you talk it over with wifey, and it was like, you got to go for it. You got to do it. And I call her back. I'm like, hey, I'm interested. And they call me like immediately. And they're like breaking down the same kind of narrative to me, right? And they're like, what happens first? I think I go interview first, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I'm used to Nike, right? So I'm like, I'm waiting for HR to reach out to me with my accommodations and my hotel and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I don't get a call. So I'm like, oh, what's going on? No, you got to get there yourself. Like, it was like.
In D.C., right?
It was in D.C., yeah. So it was crazy, like, kind of. I'd never been to the White House before. I went to school in D.C. I'd never been to the White House.
Yeah.
And I, come up there, and it's like surreal. I'm like, welcome to the big show.
You
like,
go to the White House?
To the to interview.
Shit.
Like, it was crazy.
Like, hey, I'm here for the
yeah, insane. Like,
they call
insane. Like, insane. Like, I'm like, wow.
What a trippy. It's just one of those things you don't ever, I don't know, at least me, I don't really ever picture going inside.
No, for sure.
Like, I always picture looking at it and like, there it is. But I don't ever picture having a reason to go in the door.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So yeah, I I had 6 interviews that day. Just back to back, and I had one interview, and let me tell you, like, off the bat, money is terrible, right? At the White House. Like, we're talking really bad.
Yeah.
Right? Like, yes, anyway.
Yeah, that's what I would pick.
Yeah. So this girl, I finished interviewing with her, and she knows who she is if she ever listens to this. She's like, Jeron, you will regret it.
Oh, shit, that's me. Sorry. Good.
She's kind of like, what are you thinking? If you get the job, are you coming? And yeah, she goes, and I'm kind of talking through it. I'm like, this is a heck of an opportunity, but then, there's the whole money piece and all that. She was like, if you don't take this job, if considering I get it, you will regret it for the rest of your life.
And it just like,
I mean, she gave me the
embedded.
Yeah, in your brain. It was a serious, like, listen to me.
Yeah.
So I was like, wow, that really stuck with me.
Mm-hmm.
Finished up the interview, felt like it went well, and it was really like, it's really drawing the parallels between like kind of traditional CPG, like brand strategy.
Yeah.
And I was the job I was interviewing for is the deputy director digital strategy, which is really my expertise. I've been waiting to really get back to to strictly work on the digital side. When you work on the brand side, you kind of oversee the whole marketing mix. So that that's from digital, advertising, comms, whatever. Yeah. But I was really looking for opportunity to get back into that digital lane. So it's really like it was drawing a lot of those parallels, right? And ironically, there was, because you wouldn't ever use the word marketing, in government or at the White House, but really when you're really disseminating messaging, right?
Yeah.
The same way you're disseminating consumer and brand messaging.
Yeah.
You're not a brand. So I feel good. I go back and I'm like, okay, I'm waiting on an answer, and then they give me this project. I'm like, dude,
Like a test project type thing?
yes.
Yeah.
I'm like, I have a job. Like, I don't want to do this. Like, so it's like this 20-page deck I got to put together, and I was in the middle of some other work, and I was like, you know what? Like, if you want it, you want it. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? And if you want it, go get it.
Yeah.
So I was like, suck it up. I was up to like 6 a.m. finishing this deck. Send it in. I get the job, but it's not over yet because you have what you call SF-86. You go through like 6 months of background checks. Like,
And that's like calling every person you've ever even
dude.
said hello to, right?
you know, it's even worse because they don't tell you. Like, the FBI is calling you and they're coming to meet you in person, but they don't tell you why they're calling. They're like, hey, we want to talk to you about Jeron Smith. So everybody's thinking like, I'm in trouble, right? Like, you know, because each person they talk to, they ask for other references. So you get down this line and they can end up talking to someone you haven't talked to in years, you know?
So they just say, we want to come talk to you about Jeron Smith, and they're like, all right.
Yeah, it's a pretty high level situation.
Do they say it's the FBI?
They say it's the FBI. Yeah, and a field agent comes to visit you.
Like, imagine if you had met you. Okay, imagine we never speak again.
Yeah.
10 years from now, the FBI calls me and says, we want to talk to you about Jeron.
Yeah, you
I'm
think
gonna
I was
be
in big trouble,
know
right?
shit.
Yeah.
I don't, what?
Yeah. That's how you find out who your real friends are.
Yeah.
Like, people were calling me like, yo, I got you covered, man. Like, you know,
God damn,
I think I did a really good job. I'm like, come on, man. Like,
that's a good test.
yeah, it's pretty cool.
So then,
but
that's
yeah.
6 months, you said?
Yeah, it's a 6 months process.
So you're still working,
still working at Nike.
and do you tell them or no? Or do the FBI already told them?
Near the end.
Yeah.
I had to walk in my boss's office, who had really, once again, enabled me to really do some great work.
Yeah.
And I had to, and it's funny. I walked in. He said, "Where are you going?" But it was like a running joke we kind of had.
Yeah.
He's like, "Where are you
I
going?"
do that too. Whenever anyone has a serious face and closes the door behind them, I'm like, all right, how long you got?
Yeah. And I was like, actually, but then I hit him with the White House. It was like, what?
You
Like,
can't
it was like weird for him, right? You know. So it was like, right, exactly.
What are you gonna do?
Can't really
The
hit
NSA's
him.
listening anyway. Go
Hit
ahead.
on that
talk shit.
opportunity. Yeah, for sure. No, so it was good. But it was emotional leaving.
I bet.
Like, in the back of my head, I knew I wasn't coming back, you know?
Is that because you just can't? Once you get off that train, you're off it?
No, like, I wanted, you know, my emotional self wanted to come back, but my, like, driven, career-minded, like, I knew it was time to, like,
Yeah.
move
I guess you're
on.
right, too, because I forgot about, like, you're doing the 30 under 30. You're kind of building your own thing here.
Yeah,
anyway.
you know, you're kind of on your path, you know?
Yeah.
White House was, like, the craziest, experience ever. It was amazing, and I always say I felt like I was working with some of the smartest people in the world, you know? And I don't want to talk too much about the experience because I don't want to say anything I'm not supposed to say or whatever the case might be.
100%.
But, really working with some amazing people. And, because it was the end of the administration, you really had an opportunity to really drive some, really creative strategy and really, work on something that you were passionate about, that was important, and really solve issues for the American public.
Yeah.
And I think, really seeing, Barack Obama and his work ethic up close. I already had sky high expectations for who he was and what he was doing. But
Was it greater than your expectations?
oh, it far exceeded my expectations. And then even seeing, Michelle by his side. I mean, it was just amazing. It was
Like, it really is what you hope it is.
It was what I hoped it was.
Yeah.
Which I was like, you kind of have that fear, right?
Yeah.
And then and far exceeded, far beyond.
That's
And
insane.
then was able to work on some really amazing things. Big part of my portfolio was social justice, and there was a lot going on.
Yeah, that was a big time.
Yeah, it was.
Even to be not only Barack, like, there may never be another presidency that anyone would rather work on,
Yeah.
especially a young person. Also, like you said, the end of the second term, meaning that you had more freedom than probably ever. I would guess.
Yeah,
I would guess,
absolutely.
like,
We had
beginning of the first
South
term,
by
it's
South
like,
lawn. Like, you would have never had a South by South lawn.
that's incredible.
Like, prior
Yeah.
in prior years.
I
you know?
forgot about that. You were there for that?
Yes, indeed. That came out of our office.
Insane.
Indeed.
I guess what I'm saying is like to be around that at that time and with all the social issues that were bubbling up at that time too. Insane. Anyway, keep going. Sorry.
Yeah, no. So it was an amazing experience.
Can I ask you what was your favorite?
Yeah.
Even moment, like it doesn't even have to be like or project you worked on.
Okay. So my real, you know, Jeron professionalism hat is gonna say, really diving deep into the social justice issues and leveraging the White House's digital platforms to help, message and communicate around these issues and really bring light and work with, law enforcement around America to really help to, and that is a real answer.
Yep.
But my favorite part was flying on Air Force One. Can't even lie. Air Force One was an amazing.
God damn it, you got to fly on Air Force One.
Yeah, it was an amazing experience.
How many times were you on it?
Once, and it was funny because they say, I hope I'm allowed to say this, but they say call your mom. I was like, thought they were joking, like trying to set me up, right? I get on the plane. They're like, no, seriously, call your mom.
You call her from the plane.
So I call my mom, and the Air Force One operator picks up the phone, and they're like, you give them the number, and they call my mom, and no, they hang up, and then they call the designated personnel, and it's my mom, and when they get her on the line, they call you back at your seat, and you pick up the phone, and they say, hey, we have your person or whatever on the phone.
Yeah.
And like my mom is like crying, right? Like, cause when they call, they're like, I don't know the exact verbiage verbatim, but it's like, hey, this is the Air Force One. We have White House personnel that is requesting to speak with you. Da, da, da. And she, like, that was her real moment.
It's like
right?
the polar opposite of the, hey, this is a collect call from whatever correctional facility.
Right, exactly.
Like
it's the juxtaposition. Yeah, absolutely. And she, I mean, that became her moment. That's when it became really real for her.
Yeah.
Like I'm sitting on the plane with the president, to be a part of something so much greater than yourself.
Yeah. To
work on such important issues. Like I loved my time at Nike, but at the end of the day, you are selling footwear, right?
That's what's crazy is like,
and the work at the White House was so important. Everybody was so passionate, and I've never worked with such intelligent people. And people at Nike were incredibly smart. But I think President Obama did an amazing job of bringing in the best talent, around the country, and they were there and they were committed to the issues, and it was hard.
Yeah,
it was hard.
Yeah,
it was really hard. I always say I wanted to quit every single day my first 3 months. You just don't have the same network, right? That wasn't my network. The job was familiar. Just working on digital strategy. But
it's a
you just
whole
don't
another plan.
I just didn't. I didn't have the same relationships in that. And you need people to succeed.
Yeah.
So, but it was amazing.
How insane.
So yeah,
it's good to know that. I will say, like, it's good in my zero knowledge of how the government really looks behind the scenes, or how the White House looks behind the scenes. It's good to know that is at least what that administration felt like. Because sometimes you wonder if Facebook has more talented people than the White House, right? You just wonder.
Well, we had a lot of I mean, we had a lot of Facebookers as well. There's a lot of you had a lot of talent. I mean,
those people leave their like crazy high paying jobs to make nothing, right?
Exactly. I mean, I always reference. Josh is gonna kill me for saying this, but there's Josh Miller ended up being one of my closer friends while I was at the White House, and he had a startup. He created at 22 maybe. I'm butchering it, but he was he left Princeton, started the startup. Facebook bought it. He went to work at Facebook after Facebook purchased his company. Yeah, Facebook in London, and he's working in London for Facebook, and then comes to work at the White House. Right, like dude is brilliant, you know. And
did he do all 8 years or 4?
No, he was there for about 2 years.
In or out, yeah.
And but just brilliant minds, and I think iron sharpens iron, and it was just, insane pay cut. Yeah. But when I think about it, I would have paid them for that experience.
Yeah.
To be around the people I was around and to experience what I experienced.
Yeah.
And to see what I saw up close was amazing. So
I'm jealous of that too. I'm very jealous of your life now that I really hear it and think about it. Okay, last thing, and I'll let you get out of here. How did that transition to Steph?
yeah, great question.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, Steph was looking to, you know, add some people to his team and really get strategic around his business. And the way I was introduced to Steph was actually through one of his best friend and his college teammate. He was our finance guy when I was at Nike.
Really?
So he's the guy.
His guy? His
Yeah,
homie?
yeah. He was the guy hating on our budgets. Like you're spending too much money. Like,
the worst.
it's like, I don't. What's the ROI on this? Like,
yeah.
hey,
Just
like,
that
let me
guy
show you
that
these
you hate.
impressions. Like, you know.
Yeah, he like has to be like the parking attendant of the business. You know.
Yeah, he was good though. He was good.
I know, but you just have to hate him.
Yeah,
like it's just that job that like his job is for you to hate.
Yeah, no, for sure. But you always knew he was different because he would really come over to the marketing area. Like he could have stayed in his finance building, but and try to really understand. Like, all right,
that's good.
It's like, let me understand what you guys are doing, right? Still hate on the budget, but let me understand. But you know, he kind of gave me a heads up to what Steph was looking to do, and he said, you know, you might be a good person, kind of sit down and talk with him, and that kind of started this journey of, you know, conversing with Steph and his kind of key stakeholders, you know, family, et cetera, about this opportunity. And it took a minute, and it should have, right? Like for him, right? Like I decided that was the right opportunity for me before he decided I was the right guy for him, right? But I was glad it took a while. That is a decision you should take a long time with. Like you're adding someone not only to your team but to your family.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
and that was not, you weren't replacing somebody, right? You were a new addition.
New addition.
Yeah.
New addition.
Yeah. It was even harder.
You're
building something like, I guess we need this.
0 to 1 is always
does.
harder than 1 to 2. You know, and you're going to 0 to 1. You know, so.
But I'll tell you this: when it comes to adding people to your family, you want to know who I want?
Who's that?
The guy who's on the 30 under 30 and who's been on Air Force One. I'll trust that guy anytime.
No, I appreciate that. No, but you know, no, I mean, I was excited. It was, you know, after really starting to get to know him through the process, I'm like, oh man, this is. I've had some really amazing opportunities, but this, I mean, this is right there. I mean, it was really, I knew it was an unprecedented opportunity because I was working with a once in a generation type person.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like he's just an amazing person. And yeah, so I knew. I was like, okay, this is what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
But he had to figure that out for himself. Right. So it took a while, and he definitely did his due diligence, and he took his time, and he made sure, you know, he was, you know, putting the right person in this position. And, I was humbled and extremely fortunate that, you know, I ended up being that right person. But once again, I wasn't impatient because it was going to be better for me and for the whole situation for him to feel confident and assured that whoever he was going to select in this spot was right for him and right for the opportunity. And
that's a key part of the fabric of it. How long's it been? A little over a year?
No. I would say it's been about 6 months, but technically about 4 months. Like since
so it's brand new.
Yeah, moving out to the Bay and I know, and he wins a championship. Like it's crazy. It's like been a whirlwind. You know, it's an amazing start to a new role. You know,
you have an incredible life.
No, not. I mean.
No, like I'm saying, like not only is your life great now, but I'm saying like the story is fucking incredible.
No, I appreciate it.
And just I feel like the other thing is like it's not even like luck. It's like your nature. I feel like will continue to drive you into these crazy. I feel like once again referencing you at 60 again, it's going to be 5 times as nuts.
No, I mean I appreciate that. I mean I hope so. I'm sure, you know, there will be other, you know, potholes and difficult and bumpy roads. One of my favorite quotes: "Difficult and bumpy roads always lead to beautiful destinations." Right? You know, to get to the beautiful waterfall, you got to go through the crazy forest and hike there. You know what I mean? And it's always an easy journey. But I'm sure I'll go through those things again. You know.
But you don't mind them.
But I know, like when things get hard now, I just know now, right? Because like when I look back at all those really difficult experiences, I always see how they prepped me and molded me and gave me the mindset I needed to kind of persevere and kind of have the success. So when I have those experiences now, I'm not asking why anymore. Like, why me? It's like I know it's like trial by fire. It's like molding me. If I can go through this with the right way, with the right mindset, no complaints, straight faith, hard work, do what I need to do. Like, the other side of that is it always preps me to be better.
Yeah. It's interesting. Like, I've heard that from a couple of my people I've had on here or friends who are really successful. Is like they almost look forward to those moments in a sick way.
Yeah, I don't look forward to it.
You know,
I know they're coming.
But you know when you're in it, you're like, all right.
I know,
like,
for sure.
It's like, oh, here we. It's like, but I do understand. Like, I think that I don't know if I want the misery of some of those experiences, but I do like. I'd much rather be in a challenging time than a nothing to do but successful time. To be honest. You know, I start to lose it a little bit.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, you know, a lot of successful people talk about the journey, and
I'm trying to get better at that.
I've learned to embrace it, man. I've learned to embrace the journey, and it's, you know, it's been good. You know, like it's good because I mean, I hate to keep saying it, but even through the hard stuff, it builds like character traits in me that I know are necessary and building blocks to prepare me to deal with the next situation in the right way. You know,
it doesn't make sense until it's over.
It doesn't.
You know, it's like you're in it and you're like, what the fuck? And then it's over and you're like, ah, shit.
And I guess the difference now is that I know it's gonna make sense when it's over. Whereas before, I'm like
it's over.
It's not looking good. Navy.
What's up, Navy? You still got that cruise going?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, last few things, then we're out of here. When it comes to overall, like I always say, let's say you're 75 years old, you're sitting in your rocking chair, you got your family, you got whatever you got. What do you envision as sort of your thing, your legacy, you know what I'm saying? What's it look like? What's your goal in that grand scheme? Or do you not really, do you sort of just press ahead and see what's next?
I don't know if I think about legacy per se. I still feel like just fortunate to be where I'm at. Like, you know, I just think about, I'm always thinking about empowering others, you know? And I've empowered a lot of the wrong people, you know, at times, you know, some right people, but some of the wrong people, you know? But I always go back. It was so hard for me to get an opportunity that I'm like, I'm so hypersensitive to people not having an opportunity. You know, and I always say opportunity puts preparation and success, but some people didn't do the preparation, you know? And I'm always thinking somebody's like me. They just need an opportunity.
Of course.
But I think that's a big part of, like, you know, what I'm passionate about, and when I look back at my life, like really being able to see people I've been able to help, you know, along the journey and kind of put them in position to live out their dreams. And it sounds like, I hate even saying that because I'm like 31 years old, and I'm like, what am I talking about? Like, you know, but like it's something I'm big on, you know? I always say if someone has been able to get to me, for the most part, I've tried to, like, if it's within my power, do something, you know what I mean? Whether you're going to work day staff at, you know, some kind of Nike execution or whatever, you know? But once again, like, you know, I've made some poor choices. Like, because, you know, that
it's true, man. But I do it too, where like you just kind of assume everyone's like you.
Yeah, you absolutely.
And I think that's why evil people or bad people, they're bad to everyone too.
Yeah, they're masters at convincing you.
Yeah,
like, yeah, man, you know, I'm like,
because they think everyone's just out here finessing people too.
Exactly.
They don't see what really goes into it.
You're right.
So that's what I'm saying, is I think there's a big moment in everyone's life when they realize, and I'm still going through it, where they realize everyone isn't like them.
Yeah, for sure.
But now the next step is, how do you find the other yous?
Something I need to get better at.
You're still gonna find a few more dipshits.
Yeah, you're right. I know yeah.
Okay, next one. You have unlimited budget. You can fill every major city in the country with billboards.
Okay.
What's the billboard say? Or what's on it?
Ooh, man, that's a good one. It would either be I feel like my saying is hard work and humility.
Yep.
But I think it would say nobody cares, work harder. Like,
I like that.
That's
I would love for every city. Imagine if every city, like LA, was just filled with nobody cares.
Nobody cares, work harder, man. Like, because nobody does care. Like, everybody has a story.
It's so true.
Like it's not even work hard. It's like really, it's like figure it out. Like no formula. What is your creative way of solving your own problem?
Yeah.
Which is getting this job or
But
getting
sure,
this or
not
getting
yeah.
that.
Even if it's not work, go harder.
Yeah.
Like that's what I always say is like it doesn't matter if all you want in life is like a good relationship or you want a good family or you
No,
good,
for
like
sure.
either way, nobody cares about your problems.
Yeah.
You have to work on
And
it.
you're right. Like when people interview with me, I would say, like, you want to be a marketer? I'm like, sell you.
Yeah.
Like sell you.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. Market
know,
yourself.
it's just like, I'm like,
Yeah.
you know.
Yep.
So, but anyway.
True. Okay, last one. You can go back in time
Yep.
to your younger self.
Yep.
We'll say the 5'3" you
Yeah.
that loves basketball, but maybe thinks you might not make it, but you
Yeah.
might, who knows, blah, blah, blah. And you could just kind of sort of give that one like life tip
Yeah.
with everything that you know now. What would you tell young Jeron?
I would tell young Jeron,
Air Force One is nice.
I would tell him, I say, like, you got the juice. Don't listen to anybody. You got it.
Yeah.
Like, you got it. And I think it was a long process realizing not that you shouldn't listen to people, but that everything anybody tells you is informed by their own experiences, and you need to filter every piece of advice you get.
Yeah.
Some you're going to use, but it has to be filtered. I always say the most successful people are the people that get really, really good at navigating the gray area, right? Because black and white is a formula. If it's always white, that's a formula. If it's always black, that's a formula.
Yep.
But like nobody's gonna be able to tell you how to be successful, or else
Yeah.
everybody would.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit of black, it's a little bit of white, it's a little bit of go hard, it's a little bit of fall back, it's a little bit
Yeah.
of persistence. So I feel like, I guess I would tell 5'3" Jeron, there is no formula, and if you're gonna make this happen, you're going to have to create your own, you're going to have to figure out, you're going to have to navigate the gray area better than anybody else and kind of make your own plan and your own formula for getting this thing done. So
Huge. It's one of the best answers to that final question ever.
appreciate that.
Yeah.
Hey, do I get a trophy, champ? Final answer, champ?
Final
answer, champ!
I have one Air Mag. You can have one Air Mag.
You're far too kind. You're far too kind.
Man, thank you for doing this. Thanks for staying so long. Thank you. Thank you. This was incredible.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Absolutely, man.